All right, open house tip number two. Let's talk about marketing and door knocking. So when we're marketing our homes for the open house, first of all, what I always did and what I tell agents to do now is if you know that you are picking open houses as a strategy, and let's say you want to do 24 of them a year, which is what, twice a month you want to do them, then pick the weeks that you want to do them, right? A lot of times these events that I talked about are already posted. You can kind of look to see and whatever, but like be as proactive as you can when you're doing this. I always find on Mondays, it's a great time to look at what new listings came on the market, especially those are in my office. My office at the time also allowed us to hold open houses for like anybody. They didn't have to be with our brokerage, which was super helpful. And so finding it on Monday, creating your marketing for it, and then starting that at least by Wednesday. So marketing wise, here's what I learned. I lived in a small town in Florida, and so the newspaper was still a thing there. And so I would pay money to advertise the open houses in the paper. People saw it, okay, but whenever people came into the open house and they asked how they heard about the open house, it was either Zillow or Realtor.com because obviously they were advertised there, and it was the signs. Okay. No, hardly ever did I get someone that came in with the paper or said they found it because of the newspaper. I had a couple, but it wasn't enough of my investment it wasn't enough of what I was investing to keep doing it because of the low amount of people that were finding me via the newspaper, right? Plus, you had to have everything done so early in advance for them to print it. That's half the time the homes, not half the time, but some of the times the homes went under contract and the open house was canceled, right? So it just kind of didn't work. And so find a way that you are going to market this property. Obviously, social media is a great way. Putting it in the MLS, it syndicates to the big websites that people are finding, and then put a crap ton of signs out. Okay, one sign on one side of the street is not going to be enough. Be obnoxious if you're allowed to do that. I know that some communities don't allow you at all to put signs up. Some are very minimal and they're particular about before and after, not the day before and the day after, things like that. So obviously look at your local area, your association, your town or whatever, and see what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. But put enough signage out for people to find you. I have been invited to shadow, to be a part of, or to visit open houses, and I all the time I'm like, dude, where are your signs? They're like, which way did you come? And I'm like, it shouldn't matter which way I'm coming. If there are two massive ways to get to this property, you gotta put signs on both sides. I came in through one end and there was not one sign out at all. They were like, oh, I put them all on the other side. You gotta put a ton of signs. Odds are you're going to get more people that come to your open house because of the flippin' signs. Okay. So put enough out. Don't just take 5 because there's 5 turns. Get 10 at least. All right. Both sides, whichever way people can come to your that home, you want to make sure that people can see it. All right. Because you're losing half the people when you don't do that. The other part, I door knocked around the open house. So I was always taught as an agent to do, let's say we've got this as the open house, the house that you're holding open, 10 this way, 10 that way, and then 20 across the street. Now, I lived in Florida. It was hot as hell outside. And so I did it a couple of times and I was such a sweaty mess when I got done because it was so hot that I was not the most professional looking, when they came in. And so I would either do them the night before and invite people to the open house. Or I would do it that morning, but 5, 5, 10 across. Now, if this is not the first or second open house that you're doing, maybe it's the 6th, 7th, or 8th open house, I might not knock on the door anymore because when I knocked on the door, I invited the neighbors to the open house, especially if it was the very first one. They can come in before it's open to the public, get a preview of it, get first dibs on who they wanted to share that with so they can pick their neighbors, right? And then open it to the public. But I would also spin it as a safety concern. I did them by myself for a long time. And so I would just let people know who I am, the house I'm holding open, the time I was going to be there. And I would joke and say, you can come check on me. I'm there alone or whatever. You know, depending on the person. And I would just always spin it on a safety thing. Like, in case you see a lot of cars drive by, it's me over here holding the house open. You might want to keep your garage closed, you know, your door closed if you want to, just to keep it safe, you know, stuff like that. Cause you know, people can come out of anywhere to come to an open house. And but the marketing and the door knocking could be very beneficial to your business depending on the way you're doing it. All right. So before you go putting signs in the yard, make sure that you've got a solid plan of how you're going to market the home, that it's being open. And then we'll get to follow up in another video. But marketing and door knocking, there you go.